Senator Obama, do you believe that a sitting administration or a federal judge should decide if a confidential source should be protected?
I think that that is an issue that should be determined by the courts. And this raises, I think, a broader issue of civil liberties and our various freedoms at a time when we have real enemies and real conflict. Oftentimes in these debates, certainly over the last 8 years, those who challenged the administration were accused of either being unpatriotic or being naive and willing to open up the United States to attack. The notion that somehow I or any other Democrat, I with a 9-year-old daughter and a 6-year-old daughter, somehow are less committed to protecting the American people against terrorism is a joke. What I have said, and I will continue to say, is that the essence of our constitutional principles is that not only do we have these civil liberties enshrined in the Bill of Rights, but that we also have mechanisms in place to make sure that there are checks and balances between the branches. And so, for example, if we are going to ramp up surveillance in order to prevent a terrorist attack, that may be necessary. And an administration may be entirely justified in saying we have to give law enforcement the tools that are necessary in order to impede an attack. But what we have to make sure of is that there is somebody watching over the administration to ensure that it's not being abused. And that simple principle, that there's somebody watching the watcher, that there is not simply somebody in the White House somewhere who is making unilateral decisions about how we strike the balance between our civil liberties and our safety, whether that's on an issue of freedom of the press or it's an issue of warrantless wiretaps. That simple principle is one that we can't give up, and we don't have to give up. Because it turns out that actually the courts generally are pretty good at this stuff, and if you present them with good evidence that there is a national security risk involved, they generally respond. And we've structured a FISA court to deal with this specific issue, and it's worked. And it's not as if FISA is going around saying, boy, let's really stick it to the administration. Out of the reams of requests made to the FISA court, they've rejected a handful, and I suspect for good reason. And it's that general notion of overreach by the chief executive that I think is something we've got to change. And I think the American people believe in that. It's interesting. When I'm traveling around the country, it doesn't matter where I am, whatever the demographic is. When I talk about the need for us to protect and abide by the Constitution, people respond. Republicans respond, Democrats respond. That is not a conservative or liberal issue. That is, well, ironically, it's actually a very conservative notion. It's conservative in the sense that we are being true to the principles of our founding fathers and the essence of what makes this a free society.